Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, beautiful people. I am so excited to be here today and talk about a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, which is all about sexual healing. In other words, what sexual healing is and why, in my understanding and in my opinion, every single woman on this planet actually needs and deserves some form of sexual healing and sexual reclamation. So as you are jumping on, if you're watching live, I would love to know, where are you tuning from, so I know exactly who is with me here and who is joining me. And as I am diving into this process of sexual healing, because of the topic is really sensitive and is really vulnerable, I want to give you options to basically address your questions or things that might be coming alive. So if it feels safe and if you're open to this, you can definitely ask me questions around anything that I'm sharing or anything that's sort of alive for you on this topic in the comments below. But if it feels like, hey, this is, really tender and I want to have the privacy between myself and Dagmar, I'm going to invite you to send me a private message and I'll be super happy to support you or answer your question in a private and safe way. So in case we haven't met, my name is Dagmar Khan and I am women's sexuality expert and trauma resolution guide. And my deep mission in the world is to primarily help women around healing their sexual trauma so they can reclaim their pleasure, they can restore their sexuality and feel whole again. Now, when it comes to sexual healing, it's kind of a taboo topic. Most people don't understand what sexual healing looks like or what even sexual healing is, because unfortunately our narrative around sexuality is mostly to do with pleasure, mostly to do with like sexual celebration or sexual delight, and there is very little understanding out there that our sexuality, especially for women, is in a massive need of healing and really what healing looks like. So very recently, I would say in the last 7 to 8 weeks, I have heard so many women sharing with me something alongside of, I feel stuck. So they have been in a space of, they know that they have some form of sexual trauma. Maybe they have experienced like sexual abuse or sexual violence in the past. And they've done a lot of work on themselves. They might have been in the counseling space. They might have been in therapy space. They probably have read a lot of books. They might have worked with a mentor. They are maybe really dedicated to their yoga practice and meditation practice. But there are these parts of themselves, mainly parts of their body, mainly parts of their sexuality, where they feel stuck. And what it can look like, and what these women often share with me, is some form of, I don't feel enough, like I don't have sensations in my vagina. So sex became kind of boring or dry or uninteresting. Another very common complaint is, I am having really painful menstrual cycles. As it relates to painful menstrual cycles, there can be also some challenges with the womb space, things like fibroids, things like polycystic ovaries, things like endometriosis, which is the chronic inflammation of the endometrial tissue around the womb. Another really common challenge is that a lot of women who are in the stuck space, they have very hard time connecting emotion or like emotional safety to their sexuality. So maybe they are in a relationship that like for the first time in their life feels good, where they are really loved by their partner and their partner really deeply cares about them, but they're either terrified of this level of emotional intimacy in spite of the fact that they deeply, deeply desire this level of emotional connection. Or there might be sense of, I can really emotionally connect to my partner, but when we are sexual, I'm literally shutting down. I feel like curling into a ball, or maybe I'm getting like really intense triggers. My body is closing and I really don't know what to do about this. So when it comes to space of sexual healing, I firstly want to help you understand what really sexual healing is, or like what sexual healing can look like or feel like or sound like. Sexual healing is basically either a set of practices or like specific focus or intention that allows you to do kind of three main things. The first main category is to heal and liberate troubling emotions. So when it comes to sexuality and when it comes to like really reclaiming parts of ourselves and feeling pleasure, feeling delight around our sexual experiences, there are a lot of challenging emotions that are preventing so many women to really feel whole and really feel like their sexuality belongs to them. So in this space of what I call the psycho-emotional healing, the psycho-emotional healing of your sexuality, are things like shame with sex, are things like feeling a lot of guilt, or experiencing tremendous amount of fear as it relates to sexuality. So the very concrete example for that, and that is something that I have actually been working with one of my clients on very, very recently, is she has come to me with really severe symptoms of vaginismus, which is a physical condition in which the vagina or the entrance of the vagina literally begins to close down or is fully closed down. And penetration is either absolutely not possible because of the like a severe degree of a physical closure in the vagina, or if it is possible, like in some milder form of vaginismus, it's really, really painful and really, really uncomfortable, which makes, sexual intercourse impossible. It makes things like gynecological exams extremely uncomfortable and really, really hard for women. So she came to me with like really strong case of vaginismus, and when we begin to dive into her history, into kind of beliefs that she grew up around and what kind of experiences she had or what she learned as, a young girl or teenager, she basically shared with me that she grew up in a very strong religious environment, a very, very strong religious environment where, sex was taboo. Sex was not something to talk about. Sex was not something to experience. And like sexual pleasure was a thing or kind of an area that was surrounded with tremendous amount of shame. So this religious shame that she grew up around actually created for her a tremendous amount of fear with sexuality, tremendous amount of fear with sexual penetration, tremendous amount of fear with opening her body and surrendering to pleasure and surrendering to like free flow of energy. So much so that her body actually developed this physical experience of vaginismus, which is like, if you take it from a psychological space, that is so much fear. There is so much fear around sexuality that the vagina actually closes in order to protect herself for not any, sexual violation or like any bad sexual experience to actually happen. So huge part of our work together between me and my client was actually, rather than just focusing on the vaginismus, which of course is the most important thing for her, and she really wants to become healthy and whole again, massive part of this was actually releasing her fear, releasing and integrating her fear. So what psycho-emotional healing of your sexuality allows you to do as a woman is to actually release and liberate these troubling emotions that might be having a massive impact on how you feel, on how you relate to your body, on how you connect to your partner, or how you show up in bedroom. So incredibly powerful and a truly, truly life-changing experience. The second part of this, or like the second area where we want to bring our attention as it relates to sexual healing, is actually physiological healing. Physiological healing. Now, when it comes to physiological healing, we are really talking about the health of the tissues in the pelvic floor, in the vagina, in the womb, and in the cervix. And this is very much where conditions like, as they relate to pelvic floor, come in. Things like stress incontinence, things like organ prolapse, things like pain during sex, things like what I mentioned with my client previously, vaginismus, vulvodynia, really painful menstrual cycles, and endometriosis. They all are under the umbrella of physiological healing. Now, when it comes to doing a sexual healing for your physiological health, the main focus with this area is to use a sexual healing tools to literally reclaim and restore health of your sexuality. So let's say if you are struggled with organ prolapse, the focus around your sexual healing is about strengthening the muscles of your vagina that over time allow an upward movement of the organ, so much so you can actually become prolapse free and fully restore the proper alignment and proper resting position of your organ, whether the organ was rectum or the organ was bladder or the organ was womb. If, let's say, you are really struggling with painful menstrual cycles, while there is like wide variety of what might be happening and why is that taking place in your body, one of the things that I came to see over and over again is that painful menstruations are so related to like a lot of stuck energy in the lower belly, in the pelvis, around the womb, around the ovaries, around the vagina. So prior to your menstruation throughout the month, the focus can be like really optimizing a free flow and free movement of energy and circulation through your pelvis and through your womb. So when your menstrual cycle arrives, it's for the blood is so much easier and with less effort for the blood to move down rather than you having cramps and going through like really painful symptoms. The third area of sexual healing directly relates to actual trauma healing. So this is for women who know that they have bad sexual experiences, they have really troublesome sexual past, and especially for those in this area, in this category, who know that they've done already healing on themselves. Like I was sharing at the start, it might be probably a woman who has already processed her trauma or processed her sexual abuse at the talking level. She's already been to counseling and she is in a space where she has befriended her body. So she's probably practicing already yoga and meditation. Maybe she's like avid lover of yoga. So what sexual healing would look like for her and what is really the implication of sexual healing for her is more often than not, there is a real challenge for women after sexual trauma to actually feel and perceive safety. Safety in her womb, safety in her vagina, safety in her pelvic floor. And that lack of safety can be really interfering with how she feels during sexual experiences or how she relates to her body. It can also have some possible physiological implications on her health, on the movement of blood, on the levels of energy. So healing sexual trauma through the lenses of sexual healing is actually reclaiming your body's response to tap back into full health. One of the challenges, or one of the key signatures of what trauma creates in our sexuality, is a sense of freeze. That is a chronic sense of freeze mechanism. And many women sort of communicate that, or they feel that, and they often say, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I have tried everything, but I'm still not either able to trust or sexually surrender or experience sexual pleasure, or to really be present in my body during sexuality. So sexual healing of sexual trauma actually allows you to fully get back into this, restore safety in your body, reclaim your sexual pleasure, and have the ability to stay present during sexual experiences with your partner. So incredibly powerful. Now, when it comes to the tools, and when it comes this might sound like, oh my God, where do I even start? That is so much. Maybe there is one area that really deeply resonated with me. Maybe there are multiple things that are happening for me. Maybe I'm someone who is sexually traumatized, and I also have some painful condition, or maybe some pelvic floor dysfunction, and maybe also experiencing a lot of shame or fear, or lack of trust in my body or in my sexuality. Where do I even begin? So the wonderful news for you is that I have a very special 3-part video series, which basically takes you in details on what the actual sexual healing in your body and your nervous system looks like. And it fills you with meditations and guided practices that you can start doing to actually begin the process of sexual healing for yourself in the safety and comfort of your home. So if this is something that you want to begin with, you want to start with, the wonderful news is that the 3 video series are absolutely free, and they are ready for you literally in this moment. So if you want to get your hands on it, you can simply comment the word yes in the comments below, the word yes, and I'll personally send you a message and get you started with this really powerful video series that will allow you to take the power of sexual healing, or an informed sexual healing, into your own hands. Now, if you're a more private person and it might be maybe sensitive or vulnerable for you to, comment underneath of this video, you can send me a private message and just say, yes, I want to get started on my sexual healing, and I will send you the process and the video series right away. So I'm sending you so much love, and let's make this January 2019 place of newness, new possibilities, New Year's resolutions. We're still in New Year's resolutions, a place where we can actually start healing our bodies and reclaiming our pleasure. Also, if what I shared with you today has empowered you or inspired you, and you feel like there is a special woman in your life, maybe a colleague, a friend, acquaintance, someone in a Facebook group that you are part of, would really benefit from this, feel free to share this video, and definitely I would be super happy for them to access this information, because this information can be absolutely life-changing and so incredibly powerful and healing. So sending you so much love, and let's step together into space of sexual healing.